Hey there, welcome into this final pre-draft edition of Bills Take Two. I'm Jonathan Acosta, joined here by our WGRZ Bills insider, Vic Carucci. Vic, a busy week here in Bills territory. We had Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott giving their final press conferences ahead of next week's NFL draft. We heard from Josh Allen, the start of voluntary offseason workouts, and his first comments since the trading of his star wide receiver, Stefon Diggs. But before we get into that, a little bit of breaking news before we talk here. The Pegulas and the Bills exploring selling a minority portion of the team, confirmed in a statement by the Buffalo Bills, saying they've retained Allen and Company to help with the sale of a non-controlling minority interest. They reaffirmed, though, that there's a commitment from the Pegulas to Western New York, the stadium that's upcoming, and the other teams in their portfolio. That also includes the Buffalo Sabres. Tim Graham of The Athletic, the first to report this, he also reported that the portion would be about 25% interest in the team. Just when you first hear about this report and hear that statement from the Bills, what are your initial thoughts?
My initial thought is that the Bills need some cash when it comes to the cost overrun of the new Highmark Stadium. You know, we could be looking at about $500 million, and that is on the Pegulas. That is coming out of their pocket. So it seems to me that this is a pursuit potentially of a cash infusion. 25%, if that's the number, is a healthy minority sum. Yeah, it doesn't give you controlling interest, but it certainly is a pretty big chunk of the team in terms of investment. And when you compare it to what we've seen in the NFL with the Pittsburgh Steelers, in 2008, they had Jimmy Haslam own a minority portion of that team. He of the Pilot Flying J family, and that was about a smaller percentage, but a percentage. And he goes on 4 years later to purchase the Cleveland Browns and now owns them. And in 2009, David Tepper owned a 5% interest in the Pittsburgh Steelers. He goes on in 2018 to take over the Carolina Panthers. So there is some precedent of minority ownership bringing cash into an existing team and then moving on to buy their own clubs.
Now, the Pegulas bought the Buffalo Bills a decade ago, and since then, the value of all of the NFL franchises, including the Buffalo Bills, has risen significantly. What part, if any, does that play in all of this? And do we need to be concerned about a full sale of the Buffalo Bills at any point in the near future?
I will take that statement at face value in terms of the commitment that the Pegulas have in remaining owners of the Bills and the rest of the franchises that they have. That said, the cost of doing business for them is changing rapidly, again, with the construction of this stadium, with other costs associated with the Sabres. When you look at attendance being as poor as it is, and that team going through another transition with a new coach, and a lot of disappointment, 13 years in a row out of the playoffs, they are making themselves very difficult to sell to the fan base. And when it comes to the Bills, you know, they're at a bit of a turning point here with the PSLs and the cost of those, the sticker shock from that for fans. So we can't ignore the cost of doing business going up, and you can't ignore that to stay competitive, you need that revenue. Now, the Bills are making, you know, great money. NFL networks, the network contracts that the NFL gets from its partners, that income is a big part of what pays the players' salaries and so forth. But the salary cap keeps going up. The need to keep competitive by being able to pay players over the cap, which means cash in hand, paying them bonus money and guaranteed money, all of that. You got to have that resource available. So again, this is not to say that we know or I know that the Pegulas are in any way hurting financially to be able to do this, but it does give you a clue that they're at least exploring the possibility of how to bring more revenue to the table so that those bills, so to speak, can be paid.
So with everything that you just said, why, as we talk here in late April, why do this now? And does this impact at all who pays for the stadium that's upcoming, or does that kind of still follow along the same tracks?
Well, in terms of the lease, again, the government money, the public money, we know what that was or is in about a 1.4 billion number, but the actual cost of the stadium, at least, 300 million over that. And my understanding is that, Terry Pegula has been preparing himself, bracing himself for that 300 million to become about 500 million at some point. And when you think about, and why wouldn't it go up? I mean, you think about the cost of everything everywhere, but you're talking about the materials and so on and so forth, and the pace of getting this done, and great progress is being made on it. From the standpoint of the future of the Bills, I don't think in any way we should see it as a bad thing, because the construction of the stadium goes forth. And I think all of those plans are solid. It's just a matter of figuring out how to, I'm thinking, get everything paid for, and then have the ability to, put that team play games beginning in 2026 as is scheduled right now, and go forward. I don't see it as a precursor to someone swooping in and wanting to take the team elsewhere. That doesn't feel like that would make any sense, as much of a commitment as there is with that lease and the cost that's involved to break that lease, right? You have to honor it by keeping this team here for a period of time before it would become maybe cost efficient to break the lease. So I think it's in my view, a very interesting development, but not necessarily one that should change any outlook on where things are headed with the Bills from an on-field or business standpoint.
So really, in summary, you think this has more to do with getting some financing for the stadium, and really not read much more into that?
I mean, that's what it feels like. Again, 25%, if that is the number, is a healthy chunk of the team. It qualifies as minority when it comes to voting interest at the league meetings. That's why there's a controlling interest, I believe, of 30% or more that of course Terry Pegula has. He has obviously much more than that. He's got the whole thing. But if a 25% chunk, quarter of this team, is in the hands of someone else, that is something to look at. And is it one entity? Is it multiple entities? Where does it open the door for incoming revenue? That all remains to be seen. But yeah, I see it as at least an exploration of more ability to get cash in hand to therefore pay what I believe and what they believe, the Bills believe, the anticipation of a pretty hefty bill when it comes to cost overrun of building that stadium.
All right, let's move on now to some of the discussion, some of the thoughts we heard this week from Brandon Beane, Sean McDermott, Josh Allen. Let's start with McDermott and Allen, because it was the first time we heard from them since the team traded Stefon Diggs. Both of them thanking Diggs for his time in Buffalo, the impact that he helped make. Allen even said that when he thinks of Diggs' legacy here in Buffalo, he'll think of the wide receiver that helped him become the quarterback that he is now. Just what were your thoughts and observations from listening to McDermott and Allen speak this week?
Well, Josh Allen speaks the truth when he says that Stefon Diggs had a major role in Allen becoming the quarterback that he is. That combination allowed Allen to elevate to the level of a franchise quarterback. He had the skill to do that. His passing talent did a lot for Diggs's numbers and so forth and his elevation. But it's that combination that defined what this team was. And Josh Allen's going to miss him. I don't think there's any two ways about it. We can talk about any off-field acrimony there between them or between Diggs and the team, but it does not change the fact that a significant chunk of the offense and a significant piece in Josh Allen's ability to be successful has gone out the door.
Now, with Diggs gone, obviously, and with the departure of Gabe Davis in the offseason, there's a massive hole at wide receiver for this Bills team. The presuming notion is that Brandon Beane is going to take a wide receiver early on in the draft, if not at 28, possibly even trade up to go get one of the top 3 guys. But interesting comments from him this week in saying that he believes this team can function without a wide receiver one, that it's more important for the receiver to be selfless, to be smart, to fit into the offense. When you hear that from Brandon Beane, do you take him at face value, or is that part of the smokescreen games that we hear around, this close to the NFL draft?
This team needs a number 1 wide receiver, period. It is going to pursue one, and the draft will be the place where they will find one. And that guy is likely to be a first-round pick. I don't see any way that the Bills can come out of this draft without addressing that and without that being the top spot of their need list. To suggest that they can get by with either what they have or work a committee that would include a rookie or 2, I think is a bit of folly and probably some smokescreen. Brandon Beane is a really good draft manipulator as well as being a solid drafter. But I think when it comes to this, a lot of folks that around the league that I spoke with were rolling their eyes a bit and saying, no, you don't lose numbers 1 and 2 in your receiving core and say with a straight face that you don't really need a number 1, or you don't see a number 1 receiver as a crying need for your football team. Yeah, they do need one, and there will be one defined. Every team has a number 1 receiver, and if Brandon Beane doesn't define him as one, then the rest of us will.
Now, on that note, though, can a rookie wide receiver be a wide receiver one, whether it's they trade up for a Marvin Harrison Jr. or Rome Odunze, Malik Neighbors? Can a guy they take at pick 28 be a wide receiver one? And would that be fair for a rookie to place those sort of expectations on him coming into this team?
I think any receiver taken in the first round, whether it's in the top 10, whether it's in the bottom quarter of the first round, whatever, is a number 1 receiver. He will be looked at as such. This is a rich receiver draft. Almost every draft you see lately has quality receivers emerging, and this one will be no different. This one might be one of the better receiver drafts in a long time if you listen to the pundits. And yes, a receiver can make that kind of impact right away. He does not have to, develop and become necessarily a more refined player. That will happen, and all rookies can get better through experience, obviously, but the way the college game is going and the way it translates to the NFL game from a passing standpoint, those guys usually are ready to hit the ground running.
All righty, Vic. Next time we talk, we'll finally have some Bills draft picks to dissect again. The first round of the NFL draft gets underway on Thursday. Can't wait. And finally, all this discussion is going to turn into some players to start evaluating. Thank you for your time, Vic.